My name's Eli Delaney, and I have the honor of meeting some pretty cool people. These are the entrepreneurs, the artists, the creatives, the game changers that are making a positive impact in the people that they meet. And I'm a firm believer that the people that you meet can get you anywhere you want to go. And this show is my way of sharing them with you. It's my way of also helping you be cool people. All right, welcome back to another show. Eli Delaney here, and here's my question for you. You've heard the term work-life balance, right? The reality is, there's no such thing. It's just called life. And if you're a successful entrepreneur who believes that there's more to life than just hustling, then this show is for you. Today's guest is somebody that I have the honor of calling a very good friend of mine. This is Kevin Breeding. And Kevin Breeding, let me give you a little bit of his history. He's got a big, long one, so bear with me as I go through this. He is a proven and seasoned successful executive coach, consultant, speaker, and author. He has worked in 53 countries, currently serving clients on 5 continents. Previous roles include Director of Advertising for Walmart, partner in the Washington-based Hutchinson Group, and clients include American Airlines, Subway, BMW, Pfizer, Ascent Health, International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, Walmart, and numerous entrepreneurs and private business owners around the globe. He is here today to dive deep into undercover roadblocks, operational inefficiencies, and leadership skills. So with that said, Kevin, my friend, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Eli. I appreciate you having me. I tell you, after you read my background, now I know why I feel so tired.
No doubt. And I even cut some of it out.
There have been a few seasons. Yeah, it's good.
So you've been helping people for a long time, and you and I actually had the privilege of meeting here in the Dallas area. My first time actually coming to Dallas for an event, Kevin Thompson's event, as a matter of fact. Mm-hmm. And this is how we actually got introduced, and we hit it off immediately, and we've been friends ever since. And then once I moved to the Dallas area, we get to hang out. We don't get to hang out as much as we should, but we do that. But it is just my honor to call you a friend and get to hang out with you and get to pick your brain and hear all the brilliance that you've got. And I am very, very happy that you could come hang out with us today. So first off, I just want to thank you for that.
Well, it's an honor, and I look forward to just visiting with you and with your audience, and let's go meet some cool people.
Awesome. All right. So let's go ahead and kind of start out with setting the stage. Who are you and what do you do?
Boy, that is a question now, but I'll be brief. No, I tell you, at the core, I am a guy that comes out of corporate, comes out of big agency, got tired of all of that. And I kept having people call me and ask me, would you ever consider being my coach? And at first, my answer was, oh, no, I don't do that. Let me go introduce you to this person or that person. And my personal coach, whenever I was relaying the story, he says to me, Kevin, I'll edit. Don't be a dummy. If people are calling and offering to give you money to coach them, you should say yes, and then you'll figure the rest of it out. And so I decided the first 4 people that had called me that I would take on a season of coaching with the purpose of identifying, could I help them? Would there be true effectiveness and benefit for them? Did I enjoy it? And was there value that somebody would be willing to pay for? And once those 4 things became true, that's now 11 years ago. And I started coaching with a side hustle. I was a partner in an ad firm and took on a side hustle and started adding 1, then 2, then 3, and eventually sat down with my partnership team and said, I'm going to begin an exit. It's going to look like this. And as I go that way, I'm going to give you part of my salary and revenue back so that we can hire project coordinators in that. So again, everything above board, but a very structured transition to go from this idea of being big corporate or a big agency to I want to tackle people where they are with their business and what's going on and how can I genuinely help people. So all the 10x your business, yeah, okay, all that. All the email automation, messaging, avatar work, all that, yeah, sure, that's fine. Let's talk about what really makes you tick and what really brings you joy. Those are the things that I like to mess with.
Right. And you and I have talked about several different things and clients that you've worked with on, some of the bigger picture. One of the clients that you shared with me was a husband and wife team.
Mhm.
Um, we talk about hiring a business coach or an executive coach or whatever that is. And reality is we know a lot of times coaching is also therapy. And when you're dealing with a business like that, obviously you're helping them as a family as well. So why don't you share that story with us a little bit?
Yeah, it was an interesting situation. I have worked with partners who happen to also be partners in life as well as in business. And so this particular couple had 4 businesses at the time. They were running ragged. All were sort of doing okay, but never kind of jumping, and sort of multiplying quickly. And so we started to just dig into why was that. Part of that was a team assessment and just kind of doing a full 360 and looking at, did we have the right seats on the bus or the right people in those seats? And then what do we need to do? And then we turned our spotlight toward the couple itself. And actually it ended up the way they had structured themselves initially from the founding of the company. One had greater talents from executive vision and the other one in execution. And so we ended up flipping their roles. And I mean, almost overnight, life got so much better and easier for them. And even in the midst of that, COVID hit. And so there was all of that shuffle and the craziness that happened. But, it's incredibly rewarding when you have a husband and wife who give you statements and comments about how much better their home life is by straightening out things that were giving them frustration in the business. And conversely, how much better the business was and how much easier it was and more joyful it was during the day because they weren't having strife at home. I can tell you fast forward, they've added 3 more businesses, including one was in their dream bucket list, nowhere in their core industry of what they had. And we figured out how to do that with some additional funding and leveraging and that sort of thing. But the fun thing with that particular bunch, and I got to tell you, Eli, this is one of those statements that a client comes back and says to you that I can't script it, and I never expected it. But they called into our coaching session one day, and sure enough, both of them said, we would not be married today if it were not for the work that we did with you, to be able to dissect the business and the issues that were creating struggles at home and struggles in the office. That is when, you lay down at the end of the day and feel pretty satisfied that you've done a good job.
I love it. And that is why, from my experience with you, like I said, you and I've had a lot of conversations. Yeah. My experience with you has been the fact that you are what would be, I don't even know that I could find a better term than, say, a holistic coach, because that's really where you come from in an aspect. You look at things from that holistic side of here's the face business problem you think you have, but here are the underlying things. Oh, and by the way, this has to do with this other thing going on in your personal life over here as well. And you just meld them all together. And that's so much fun.
I don't really see them as different. And for in full transparency, because that was true in my own life. In my corporate life, whenever I got upside down or stuck or didn't feel like I knew kind of my next step, and this was in, the world of Walmart, where every decision was approaching 8 and 9 figures. So, I mean, big decisions. And if I didn't have a clear mind, if I was worrying about the little things, bad choice of words, about the things from home and from my personal life, from my spiritual life, from my physicality, that would cloud all of the things that made me less of an executive. And so the best way to lead and grow a company is to figure out, am I also taking all the other things that make me that executive in the first place?
Right. No, that is great. And I think it's really important that we kind of dive into this a little bit further, because a lot of the clients that I work with are much smaller. They're solopreneurs. Sometimes they are husband-wife team, but they're usually small, pre-million arena,
Sure.
but they might have 2 or 3 virtual assistants at the tops. And that's kind of how their business is ran. What are some of the pitfalls that people should be looking for early on to help them as they grow and scale, and making sure that they're building that life balance that we talk about here?
Well, I tell you, it goes so much farther beyond life balance. The two things that I think are the biggest consideration is I run across folks all the time, almost every day, where they are looking for a coach. They want to, 10x their business or whatever the catchphrase is of this week. And they don't really have clarity of what it is that they want. And so, we'll jump on a discovery call and kind of jump into all of those things. And I asked them, I said, where are you trying to get to? And they said, well, my buddy has a business that does X, Y, and Z, or I was in a conference the other day and I met so-and-so. And everything is kind of like, when you're in a restaurant and the waiter walks by with a plate of food and you go, ooh, that looks good, I'll take one of those. That's not the way to look at strategic growth and how a coach can help you. And so one of the first things that I always do, because I needed to do it, is let's look at what does that mean? What does that look like? How does your day work? How much money are you trying to make? What are all of these decision-making criteria before it's your fire-ready aim? And you just, buy a course or buy a program or do whatever, is get crystal clear about what you want. Then, number 2, most important is it's a phrase that I use all the time. I've used it now for 11 years plus. Expectations without agreement is the death nail of every relationship. Let me say that again. Expectations without agreement is the death nail of every relationship. And what that simply means is, especially when you start to get beyond solopreneur desk and you start to add team members, or you start to add resources, or later affiliate partners, and all the things that go with the trappings of this business, if you don't have clear conversation and clear elements around expectations, inevitably there's going to become conflict. That conflict will ultimately cost you a business relationship, and more importantly, it'll cost you a friend. And so what you got to do is make sure that you are being crystal clear. You can't expect that until you are clear and can communicate that.
Ooh, that's a good one. I love that, because that clarity is so powerful, especially when it comes to team. And I know, like, even for myself, when a lot of the clients that come to me, when I start working with them, they're like, I need to create a follow-up system for my lead magnet. And I'm like, okay, what is it you're doing? And it's like they haven't done the deep dive of what they actually want to accomplish by it. And this is a simple little thing that should take a couple hours. Yep. You're talking on a much bigger scale of, okay, what is your business going to look like? What is that growth of that scale going to look like? And what does it look like to have those people in the roles that I think a lot of times people bring somebody in because they know they're at the phase where they feel like they need to bring somebody in, but they forget the important part that they have to have very clear expectations at the beginning to make sure that that person can be successful.
Well, even a solopreneur, same sort of thing is one of the Achilles heels. And I know you see this all the time, is in those early days, we all want to say, yeah, I could hire somebody to do it, but it's only this much money. It's only this many hours. I'll just do it myself. You fast forward, 4, 5, 6 months, it's still not done. You're wore out and frustrated, and then you're playing catch up, and you can't figure out why you're not getting new clients because the thing's not done. And so it's also inward pointing, as well as what happens whenever I hire my first VA, or my first hourly relationship, whatever it is. Those are the things that really help you kind of get clarity. It's not about the size and the magnitude, it's in the moment. As you know, and we don't have to get into a lot of this, but I've recently gone through about a 3-year season in a health crisis. As I'm coming back into the business day to day, I've had to come back and say, okay, what do I need to be working on right now? that's going to, help me reintroduce and say to everybody, I'm not dead, I'm back working. and how do you do that? And then what's going to be my next step? And then the step after that. So all the stuff that I teach everybody. In fact, a buddy of mine I was having coffee with here in the neighborhood the other day, he said, if you were being your own coach right now, what would you be saying? And it's exactly this. What do I need to do in this moment? And then what is that going to look like? And what is the trigger that puts me into the next step? And then what do I believe is the trigger for the third step? Because that could change by the time I get there.
Right.
Whenever I started this health journey, ChatGPT didn't exist. At least in the marketplace. I mean, right. It was out there, but so it's just trying to figure out where you are and exactly what do I need to focus on in the moment. Because if we try to solve everything all at once, you're never going to get there. It has to be in dissected pieces.
Yeah. I was even just having a conversation with somebody a couple of days ago about JIT, just in time, like just in time learning. And, and I know you and I have gone through some of this stuff before, and it is about that. Okay. There's 552 things that I would love to do right now. And they all sound really cool and they all could be very, very powerful things, but what's the one thing that's going to get me closest to the net today? What's just that one thing, and what's that action? And a lot of times we get so overwhelmed with all the opportunities that we don't find that one single thing.
Yes.
And so it's really important that for anybody who's listening here, definitely stop and think about that. Pause the video and write that down. What is the one thing that's going to get me the fastest results today? And then what is the trigger that's going to take me to the next step? And I do like the fact that you talk about, write down, okay, what is step number 3, or what do I think step number 3 is? Because a lot of times people, they think they've got it all figured out, but they're not flexible enough once they realize that life doesn't always happen the way we expect it's going to.
Well, and we run in a circle of people who have been trained. You never admit that you don't know. We're all in the beautiful Instagram world where everything has to be perfect all the time. And the truth is, it just doesn't work that way. It doesn't matter whether you're just starting out or if you're a multi-billion-dollar public company and you're making those decisions at that level. You would be shocked well, probably not. I mean, you've been around with a lot of places before. There are so many similarities between start out CEOs and multinational billion-dollar corporations. It's so similar, and we all have this mystic sort of feel about it all. And the truth is, one, because there's humans involved, so there's human nature involved. And then how do you strip away the mystique and kind of the blurriness and all the thing and just get down and say, okay, I don't care about all that. Let's get to brass tacks about what's going to get me where I want to go today.
No, I love that. And you actually brought up what was going to be my next question, which was, you've worked for a lot of these big corporations or work with them, whether you work for them or with them, situation,
Sure.
But you're working with a lot of, it's not as solopreneurs, smaller businesses in various areas. What are a couple of the things, what are a couple of the things that are so similar that you think might be helpful for people that are in that area? They're like, okay, well, I'm not this big agency and, I'm different. Things are different. When you just said that, and I was really glad you did, because it prepped me for the question I already had sitting ready to go, which was, what are the similarities? What are some of those things that they have the same kind of problems that we do? And what are some of the things you might recommend that people kind of stop and put in the back of their brain to let it percolate a little bit to keep them on that right path?
One of the most common mistakes that we all make, and I am absolutely guilty of this myself, is we're all having a conversation about ourselves and about our business in our head. And we fail to take all of that conversation and all of those words and bring them out into a conversation with resource partners or with team members or VAs or whatever. And so it goes back to the expectations without agreement statement. I know where I'm headed. I know what I've been thinking about 22 hours a day for the last 6 weeks. and new persons just coming in, and we're like going, I told you these 5 bullet points. Why don't you understand all the things I've been thinking about for the last 6 months? And there's no way that they could possibly, I mean, unless they're clairvoyant, but even then that's a whole nother episode probably. But but it's so interesting. Had a client recently, went from literally startup to, big growth, decided to do an IPO, and went multinational. Now have a market cap of about $3 billion. And the CEO had called based upon a recommendation and says, can you come help me? And I was like, great. Yeah, I'll come coach the C-suite as a group. And then I'm going to coach each of you individually. I didn't have the heart to tell him, and I hope he's not listening today. He'll listen soon. But is that actually what it was? Is my core coaching in that environment was based at the CEO, because all communication had to be relayed to the next. And every time you add a layer of a corporation, and now, I mean, they have thousands of employees all over the world. And I mean, it's a brand that if I mentioned it, you'd know it because it's on TV. That they have that struggle with, how do I get the vision and the truth and the statement and what's important out of here and out there so that I can execute a team to go do that. And it sounds simple in principle. It is very hard to do, but it's not impossible. It's not, let me say this the correct way. It's difficult, but it's not hard. You just have to take the time and say, okay, what am I saying and what do you hear? A great tool just in this is, anytime you have a phone call with resource partners or an affiliate or a VA or whatever, get yourself into the habit and get them into the habit of, as you're wrapping up the call, one, go through everybody's list of deliverables and action steps from that conversation. And two, I want to make sure, can you speak back to me what it is you think I'm asking you to do? So that way you have the ability to learn, how do I speak more clearly to those folks who I am trusting in and investing in to help grow this vision that I have in the first place? And so just a couple little things, wrapping up meetings and that will give such clarity, and it saves you tons of dollars later as you're bringing resource partners in, and eventually, full-time employees, or however you choose to build it.
Right. No, that is great, because it is such a simple exercise, but so many people don't think about it, and it's so powerful, because that is, I mean, we all know, I mean, I'm a communications guy. It's all about, what I say is not necessarily what you hear. And the goal is, how do we fix that? And right. Like you were saying, so many people, if you get to the point where you're growing and you just have multiple levels, then you're just playing the telephone game, which is never good in business and spending money.
Well, I tell you, a great example very quickly is my first VA. I was with Vanessa for 6 years. She's Philippine based. Mm-hmm. We were, 12 and 13 hours apart, and we created a Slack model, but then a series of folders, and that we would go through and use. And she would give me her questions at the beginning of the day. I would answer them 7 in, and at 7 p.m, she'd give me, here are my statements of what I've got done and where they are in the folders. And then I would come in and say, great, let me go look at this. What about this? And we just had this transition. Here's the kicker. I have never physically once spoken to Vanessa. Mm-hmm. And we were together for 6 years. Yeah. She now lives stateside, and we've talked about trying to get together here at some point, but it's learning that kind of methodology that can learn the handoff. And I'll be candid with you, where that came from is, whenever I was in Walmart corporate, I had 7 marketing departments around the world. I had 9 advertising agencies, and they're not on my time zone. I'd learn how to communicate and deliver a nugget, and then the next morning come in without talking to them, have received the information I was looking for, and able to take action or give them a reply. And so once you take away the capability of direct one-on-one, it makes it far more difficult and yet more streamlined.
Yes, I love that. And it is, For anybody, especially if you're bringing in a virtual assistant, and you brought in the fact that your assistant was in the Philippines, so many of us use outsource of some sort that are in other countries.
Sure.
It's when you got it down and you're using a system like that, I mean, it's really straightforward. You put it down very brilliantly, and I hope that everybody's paying attention to this, because you start the day, they're going to send their questions and what's going on. You answer them, let them do their thing. And it's all a very simple cycle. They keep in communication with you. Here's what I did. Here's what I didn't get done. Here's my questions for you. And then you answer back, very straightforward. You look the stuff over, get it back. It makes things actually way more efficient than a lot of times we think they need to be by, can we jump on a call, or do we have to get on a Zoom nowadays? And I'm a big advocate for Zoom, but there is so much that can be done in time lapse.
Mhm.
And that's why, like, for me, I'm a personal big fan of using video, short videos. I use Loom as a software that I'm currently using, and I will record a video to go through stuff. Matter of fact, I did it because my guys are actually working on rebuilding a website for me right now.
Mhm.
And so we're doing the back and forth thing. So I do a video, I record a couple of things, give them quick notes, but watch the video. They watch the video, they make the changes, they send stuff back to me, ask me any questions of anything that's, not quite clear. And it's beautiful because my time involved is about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Where if we actually had to schedule and go through it all, it easily would have been a 45-minute conversation.
Yeah, I was always that way, even in corporate. I love, what is it? The Bezos principle is, if you have a meeting that you can't feed everybody in the room with 2 pizzas, then you have too many people in the room. And I think that is absolutely true. And is there anything with this meeting that I could do without an actual meeting? And if you're constantly asking yourself that, because it's so expensive, especially in the corporate world. And so you take those principles, and then how do you bring them back here? And it goes back to your core principle and question from the beginning of the episode, is this whole idea of work-life balance. How do you work efficiently and effectively so that then you have capacity to look at the other things in your life? And those are everything from, your relationships and health and spirituality, education, all those things that make us up who we are. And you have to be as intentional with those as you are with your sales process. Because if you're not, you're always going to be scrambling and playing whack-a-mole.
Yeah, no, it is very, very, very true. So when, you've got such a wide range of clients that you've worked with, what is your perfect client? Like, who are the people that are coming to you that you can help the best?
Somebody who is past the point of fooling themselves and realizes that they have a vision, but they also have hangups. There are things that, I do, I wished I didn't do, or whatever, and I'll tell you, I have folks who are literally side hustle out of corporate. I got folks that are at a card table in their garage. I've got folks that are running 6 and 7 figure, coaching businesses, or, product marketing, or, any of those. And then the corporate groups. It's when they identify, yes, we want to grow, and we have an idea. We have an idea of where we want to go. And we're willing to say that it's going to require us to change and how we need to do things. If those 2 things are facing the same place, then we can make progress. Where I can't help somebody yet is when they're like, yeah, I'll get to all of that eventually. I just need to figure out, how do I 5X my business in the next 6 months?
Got it.
There are lots of people selling that, and there are lots of opportunities for you to go find that. I have a hard time separating those 2, because at the end of that process, it's a human being who has all the trappings back here that they're not talking about, that are keeping them limited from what they're actually being able to deliver.
Right. Well, and I think you brought up something really important with that statement right there. there's a ton of people that are selling the, all 5x, 10x your business, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. We've, as for those of you that are watching, Kevin's rolling his eyes now, and I totally agree with him on that one. We all know that they're out there, but what I love is the fact that you brought up the fact, yeah, we can get you there. Honestly, that's the easy part. The problem is the struggle you're going to have to get there if you don't solve these other things first. And you kind of alluded to that in that statement. It's like all these things that we don't want to talk about, or they're not the sexy things. Those are the things that a lot of times we have to deal with. And I know those are the things that you dive deep into.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've got a couple right now that are high six and just broke the 7-figure mark. And honestly, when we talk, they're like, I'm thrilled that the business is doing what it's doing, that the money is doing what it's doing, but I'm not happy. I quit a job to build a business to create a job for myself. And they're not having life. They're not having relationships. They're not getting back to their core true self. And they call me and they're saying, where do you think I should go? What do you think I should do? And I said, the question is, what do you want? And so, for me, and I won't take time to do it, but I mean, literally right over here on this glass board is a statement of 10 things that mine happens to be June 1st of every year. I go through and I clarify, these are the 10 things that I want to be true June 1st, 2024. And I'm in the process of working on my 10 things for 2025. And then I reverse engineer, how am I going to do those elements to make sure that June 1st of 2025, all those things are done. And it's things like, I want to have, 4 to 7 clients. I want to be making this much a month. I want Susie and I to be able to travel extendedly 6 times a year. I want to be this weight or less. I want to be working on the release of the podcast. I want to be involved in a faith community that I'm deeply connected to. I want, just all of those sort of things. And I can tell you quite candidly, I'm very excited about this for 2020, end of 23, going into 24. All of those were true in January. And so it's, again, clarity coming back and whether it's the 10 statement process or whatever, and I'm happy to invest that with anybody that'd like to hear, but just getting down to those core elements, and then you can ask yourself at the end of a day or in the middle of the day when you're like, this is crazy, what have I have going on? And I can look at everything on my task list, everything on my calendar, and say, do they help me get those things? And if they don't help me get those things, then I'm going to figure out how to stop them, unravel them, take them out of my calendar or delegate them, whichever, and then continue back on the things that I want to be true and important by a certain day, year after year after year after year. That changed my life completely.
That is brilliant. And I love that. I mean, it really is such a simple exercise. It's one of those things that is like, okay, sit down, write down, what are those 10 things that you want to have happen in the next 12 months?
Yeah. And the reality of, can all of those things coexist? I mean, we all come out of the gate and say, I want to have a $10 million business. All right. Well, are you ready to do what it takes to build a $10 million business this year? While also, your marriage is falling apart, or you got a, kid in juvie, or, I mean, let's face it, life happens. And so, so are those things realistically, able to work cohesively? And if not, something's got to give. And the answer is not to take one off the table. The question is how to balance. I hate that phrase in this context, but how to make them, each stretch in concert. It's kind of like if you took a board, this can be an Arkansas solution for those of you who will relate. Take a board with about 7 or 8 nails around the side, and you take a rubber band and stretch it around the outside of the nails. In order for you to scoot one further outside, everything else is going to have to give and stretch with that. Otherwise, it can't do it.
Right.
Otherwise, the rubber band ends up breaking. And we all know what life feels like whenever that happens. And there is no such thing as balance. It's much more about harmony and that ability to work together. Never has that been more true. And you and I have talked about this offline. than whenever I went through the beginning of the sickness stuff and physically did not work for a year.
Mm-hmm.
So revenue's gone, all of those things are gone, and then you're scrambling to you talk about, here are the principles of your coaching, and now they're thrown into the fire, and you got to figure out, did this stuff work or not? And you know
Right.
what? It does. And
Yeah.
that's why I love being able to say to somebody, it doesn't matter to me if your life is on fire or if you're doing pretty good. There's always a way of getting it to where you are controlling what's happening and where you're going, rather than having a business wag you like nobody's business. You may get there and have a check, but you're not able to enjoy it because you're wore out.
Right. And
We've all
so
been
many.
there.
Yeah, we've all been there, definitely. You said one word that I wanted to bring this attention to you because I thought it was great. Harmony.
Mhm.
Just to add to this entire thing, I actually wrote down, it was about 3 weeks ago. I was taking notes at an event and writing down, and part of the stuff was related to that whole balance, like work life balance concept. And I was like, that isn't the right word. It doesn't make sense. And I knew that back then when I was writing all this stuff down, hearing this guy talk, and then all of a sudden that same word harmony kicked in. Is like, it's not balance, it's in harmony. Knowing that it's going to fluctuate. One thing's going to go better and another thing's not going to go as well, but it all just fluctuates around. As long as it stays in harmony, that's the win. That's what should happen. So I thought it was great that you used that term, because that totally resonated with me, by the way.
Yeah, I'm a musician, lifelong musician, and so
Mm-hmm.
terms like that, like my work routine is built around the concept of rhythms that we can talk about some other time. But harmony is one of those, because great hymns or great anthems all have beautiful harmony. So does Thelonious Monk. It's just that Thelonious Monk is all cluster chord jazz, where Isaac Watts and some of the great hymnals, or a John Williams piece, any of that has great harmony. It's all harmony. It's just a matter of how you look at it, and the sound and the feeling that you're trying to emote. That all applies to how it works in your business. And the ultimate core ingredient is clarity about who you are, what you want to stand for, who you want to fight for, and then ultimately, what do you need to be doing today to get to that next stage? That's all it is.
Beautifully said, my friend. All right. Now I got to ask the question that you may have just answered it. As we start wrapping up, if you could leave people with one piece of advice that's an action step that they can take right away, what would that be?
I really think it comes back to the clarity exercise, is just asking yourself, if you're not satisfied with where things are, if you're not satisfied with the revenue, or you're not satisfied with the lifestyle, or you're not satisfied with any of those things that are coming in, rather than saying, I just need another course, or I just need another, this or that, or if I could just do what this guru is saying or that guru is saying, the core question really comes back to, what is it that I want, and what does that really mean? I mean, I'm in this conversation, and I don't mind saying it. I mean, the services that you provide are exactly what is part of the next step with what I am headed to and doing, because I don't want to do any of those things. And candidly, I'm not very good at it. And so the right answer is for me to do what I am gifted at, and let others who are far more gifted than me come in and say, what are those things that are here? So the clarity conversation is critical. And we hear people talk about it all the time. It's almost, Pollyanna, and it's really not. It's coming back and saying, I want to work 3 days a week. I'd like to work 6 to 7 hours a day. I want to have, in my case, 100 free days a year. I want my wife and I to be able to travel 6 extended weekends a year at least. I want to be less than 220. I want to be cancer free, which I am. And, just all of these things, just kind of, as soon as you can sort of peel these back and then say, okay, how do I best set up a way where these can work in harmony with each other? And when you can get a clear statement of what that looks like, then it's possible to attain it. It's just the problem is we go, yeah. I want it to look like that over there. And it has no meaning until it has definition.
Right. I love it. That is awesome. All right. So last question. People are going to want to pay attention. So what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Yeah, well, I will confess, as much as it shames me to do so, when I came back out of my medical journey, I blew up my entire world. And so right now there's not even a website. I've got some folks working on that. Easiest way for me is I'm on Facebook, kevinbreeding.coach, and also on LinkedIn, just Kevin Breeding, all one word. That's the easiest way, just to kind of follow what's going on. But please, if you do, hop over in DMs and just message me and let me know that this is how we got connected. Would love to hear your story. And then also, I've got some tools and resources that I'd love to share and just kind of see if we can't jumpstart you where you're going.
Awesome. Perfect. And we'll be sure to put those links in the show notes for this.
Great.
So, and by the way, when he says connect with him, he's got some cool resources. He ain't kidding. Okay. Reach out with him, connect with him. He's an awesome guy. He has been super, super helpful for me, especially in this last year and a half when I have been rebuilding everything that I was even doing myself. So thank you so much, Kevin. It was awesome having you on the show. I knew you were going to come, bring some great stuff, and I appreciate you very much, my friend.
It's an honor to call you my friend. Thank you so much.
Awesome. And everybody listening, get out there, have an amazing, amazing week. Look forward to seeing you on the next episode. And as always, if there's anything I can do to help you out, reach out and let me know. Take care. And that wraps up another Meet Cool People show. Now, if you like what you heard, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, or review so I can help introduce these amazing cool people to even more amazing cool people. And just remember, meeting cool people is just the beginning. You need to have a system in place to follow up with the amazing people that you meet. This is exactly what we do for our clients. If you'd like to see if my team and I can help you, go to followuprockstar.com and check out the case study video to see exactly how we're helping our clients turn casual connections into cash clients for life. Again, go to followuprockstar.com and we'll see how we can work together to turn you into a follow-up rockstar.